Hey guys, so recently I've been getting a bunch of comments asking me to do a hero's journey episode, and the two movies that seem to keep popping up with those comments are Moana and also Batman Begins. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. So the timeline for today's episode is as follows. I'll talk about and explain three stages of the hero's journey in Moana, then the same in Batman, and then at the end, I'm gonna follow through with my own thoughts and conclusions for which one I think makes the better movie. Keep in mind, this is not a synopsis or an overview of either movie. I'm gonna speak about these movies, expecting you to have also watched them. So the first stage that I picked from Moana is actually Ordinary World, and it's pretty simple. It's just the hero's everyday life before the adventure actually began. It shows us, the viewers, who they are and what's missing in their life. So with Moana's a young girl living in a tropical island, and she's actually next in line to be chief of said island. Her people have never traveled beyond the small reef surrounding it, but the issue is that Moana loves the sea and dreams of sailing past the reef and traveling across the ocean. This is actually the source of a great deal of tension between Moana and her father, who's the current chief of the island, and he believes that Moana needs to get over her delusions and start preparing to take on the roles and responsibilities that come with being chief. So the second stage that I picked for Moana is the fourth one, crossing the threshold. It's pretty simple. It's when the hero leaves their familiar world behind and steps into the unknown. This is the point of the story where they fully commit to the journey. So here, at this point, Moana's already tried and failed to cross the reef. However, after witnessing the past of her ancestors and receiving the heart of Tefiti from her grandmother, she's a lot more capable, both mentally and physically, to make that journey. She's fully accepted the ocean's call, and while her previous solo attempt failed, this time the spirit of her grandmother appeared in the form of a stingray and helps her finally cross that divide between ocean and reef. So, the third and last stage of Moana that I want to talk about is also the last stage of the hero's journey itself, restoring the world. In it, the hero returns home transformed, and they bring back something valuable, whether it's wisdom, power, healing, or change, and they make the world a better place because of it. In Moana's case specifically, she's now both a voyager and a leader, completely different from what she was like at the start of this movie. She's returned to the island and has taken her place as chief of her people. The people of our island are also now seen to have returned to their roots as voyagers. They've left the island behind, and to symbolize this, Moana goes to the hill where countless chiefs before her have placed a flat stone, and she goes and places a seashell, something that you can't stack. This is her way of saying that she and her people are done with the cycle of island life and have moved on, leaving it all behind. Now, the first stage that I picked for Batman is also the ordinary world. Um, Bruce Wayne, who's our protagonist, at the start of this film is the complete opposite of Moana, a completely miserable man. He witnessed his parents get murdered as a child, and even now, as an adult, still feels guilty for what happened that day, and his only motivation in life is to take revenge. And in that movie, the man who killed his parents recently got released early for good behavior, and so Bruce prepares himself to avenge his parents. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, someone else beats him to the punch, leaving Bruce unable to do anything. So now, with no goal, no social life, and no accomplishments, Bruce Wayne has finally hit rock bottom. So, the second stage for Batman that I want to talk about, similar to Moana, is crossing the threshold. So, shortly after Bruce loses his way, he gets picked up and trained by an organization called the League of Shadows. They're a group that has kept evil in check for centuries. They are the ones who burned down Rome and London, and they plan on destroying Gotham as well. They try to teach Bruce how to control his fears, and he trains with them for years under his mentor Ducard and his master Ra's al Ghul. His final test before becoming an official, full fledged member is to execute a captured criminal. Of course, Bruce, being the superhero he is, refuses, saying, "I'm not an executioner," and subsequently fights every single person in the group and burns down their base of operations. After this, he returns to Gotham with a plan to drive away evil by becoming a symbol that all villains will fear. The last stage for Batman that I want to talk about is the ordeal. So it's the 10th stage in the hero's journey, and in it, it's just a major crisis or challenge that tests our hero. It's often a turning point where the hero has to face their greatest fear or their greatest enemy. And so for Batman, it's just Ra's al Ghul is well and alive, and he's continuing on with his plan to destroy Gotham, like I've discussed before, saying that the city is beyond saving. His plan is to poison the entire city, and Batman needs to stop him. But this isn't just a physical battle. Batman needs to fight the man who trained him, and the philosophy that he rejected. If he fails, not only would Gotham fall, but Ra's al Ghul would have been right all along. Now, during the fight, when Bruce finally gains the advantage, his opponent forces him to choose. Does he uphold his morals, or does he let his fears take over and stop the villain by any means necessary? Now, fortunately, he was able to find a middle ground, defeating Ra's al Ghul without saving him, and saying, and I quote, "I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you." Now, by doing so, he proves that he can fight without being consumed by his fears, finally earning him his place as Gotham's protector. Real quick, before we move on with the rest of the episode, I just want to interrupt with a quick 30-second ad read. Wayfinder Co. Whether you're traveling oceans or crossing mountains, your journey shapes who you are. Wayfinder Co. creates travel gear designed for the hero in all of us. Inspired by Moana's courage and Batman's discipline, our packs and outerwear are made to endure the path ahead. No matter how far you go, Wayfinder Co. Find your way, forge your story. So that's it for the three stages for each movie. So if that's all you're here for, you can leave now. But if you're interested in hearing my biased opinion on which movie was better and my reasoning behind why, I think you should stay. Now, when it comes to what I think is the better movie, I'll say right now, I enjoyed these movies a similar amount, but I'll also say that I disliked parts of Moana a lot more than I dislike certain parts of Batman. Now, some of the points I'm going to bring up aren't exactly ones that I've directly discussed with the stages, but I feel like they're still all very much worth talking about. So, my biggest gripe with Moana, the movie by far, is Maui. I don't like how they handled his character at all. And even though he's a main character and supposed to be Moana's foil, he lacked a lot of the substance and actual character development that Moana had. His redemption arc was barely more than a quick, sympathetic origin story, and he kind of just flips from jerk to nice like a switch. Also, looking back, it is kind of surprising how little work he actually did. When you consider all three villain encounters, he just did a lot of nothing, while we, the audience, waited for Moana to have this big gotcha moment. And thing is, not only does this take away from Maui's character, it also does a lot to harm Moana as well, since you end up feeling like she doesn't do much either. Another issue that I have is the pacing of the film. Now, the first act, which I did talk about, it goes from ordinary world to crossing the threshold, and it took way too long. And while I acknowledge that, yeah, it's a Disney movie, and I should expect musical numbers, I shouldn't have to sit there for 10 minutes straight thinking, oh my god, when is this part finally going to end? So I do feel like this first act of the film could have been, and honestly should have been, a lot more trimmed and much shorter. I also just don't like the musical numbers in general. Thing is, this is a lot more biased, but I remember them being a lot better than they actually were when I ended up rewatching for this video. But even though I did just say all of that, Moana is still a pretty good film, and honestly, a close second, especially if you turn off your brain for most of it. And moving on to Batman, I don't have a lot to specifically praise Batman for, but I will say that I liked Bruce Wayne's character development a lot more. His journey just feels deeper, and he doesn't just learn something, he also completely changes how he thinks and acts by the end of this film. He goes from being this prince of Gotham, a vengeful and rich kid who hasn't done anything useful with his life, to being the symbol of justice and fear. And not only does he get over his own fears, he also uses that emotion, that fear, to control and limit the streets of Gotham. And also, unlike Moana, where seemingly all her character development happened in chunks where she interacted with her dying or dead grandma, you can slowly see Bruce Wayne come to the realizations that he reaches at the end of the film. Now, my favorite example of this would be when he's talking to this character, Rachel. She asks about his identity, and he repeats her own words to her. He says, "It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me." Now, all in all, these were both pretty good movies, and I had a lot of fun recording this episode. So, thank you guys for your time, and I'll see you later.